Hello, Mind Mappers, and welcome to the video. Today we're going to be going over HyperFocus by Chris Bailey. If you're the type of person that struggles with procrastination, struggles with feeling like they're not as productive as they could be, this book is perfect for you. We're going to learn all about productivity and why productivity might not be what you think, and we're going to learn how to hyperfocus, which is kind of this interesting mix between flow and deep work that I think Chris Bailey has really explained well inside the book. With that, we're going to get directly into the introduction, which I pulled out a quote from the book to give you a good overview of what we'll learn inside of Hyperfocus. Chris starts out by saying, "Above all else, I begin to view attention as the most important ingredient we can add if we're to become more productive, creative, and happy at home and at work." So this isn't just about a career or about business, it's also about home as well, which I think is a very important distinction that Chris makes in his book that some of the other authors mentioned before didn't make in their own books. When we invest our limited attention intelligently and deliberately, we focus more deeply and we think more clearly. This is an essential skill in today's world when we are so often distracted in environments doing brain heavy work. This is in the information technology world, this is in all sorts of different businesses. So much of this is brain heavy work, but we're constantly distracted with social media and all sorts of different applications on our computers and our phones, and just other people being able to kind of interrupt us when maybe they shouldn't be able to do that. This book takes you on a tour through my exploration of the subject of focused. I'll not share only the fascinating things that I learned, but also how to actually put those ideas to use in your own life. I've road tested all of them. I've tested a lot of these ideas myself, and they've really increased my productivity and my focus. Productivity research is great, but pretty useless when you don't act upon it. In this way, I see Hyperfocus as sort of a science help book, one that explores the fascinating research behind how you focus, but also bridges those insights with your daily life and to explore ways you can manage your attention better to become more productive and creative. These ideas have already changed one life, mine, and I know they can do the same for you. On the surface, the results can seem a bit like magic, but magic stops being magic the moment you know how it's done. And this good magician is going to reveal his tricks through the mind map. So I like what he said here in the beginning, investing attention deliberately and intelligently. So we're going to pay attention to something no matter what. That's something that kind of stuck out to me during this book. You are going to pay attention to something. And whether it's Netflix, whether it's YouTube, whether it's any one of the other distracting things, you are paying attention to that thing. However, we want to, again, invest our attention more deliberately and intelligently. This is one of the most impactful passages that I think is probably in the entire book, and it came right at the beginning. It made me think, how am I actually investing my attention? It has to go somewhere. I have this flow of attention. Where is it going? The idea of attention needing to be intelligently managed, just like investing money into the stock market. For me, that's genius. It really gave me a good metaphor to view this book through. Given that we have limited resources, which is attention or money, how would we deploy those to get the best possible return on an investment? This should get you thinking, how am I spending my attention? Maybe you haven't given much thought to it, as a lot of us probably haven't, but that's okay. We kind of all just float through our lives a lot of times, and we don't pay attention to what we are paying attention to. Just know that going forward, this is something to pay attention to, not to use the same sentence over and over again. Now, this isn't just about productivity either. I don't want you to get that idea of this book. It's really about how attention is actually shaping our lives. Chris says in the book, whether at work or at home, the quality of your attention determines the quality of your life. That's another really great quote. The quality of your attention determines the quality of your life. At work, the more attention you give to what's in front of you, the more productive you become. At home, the more attention you devote to what's in front of you, the more meaningful your life becomes. So what's attention all about? Well, it's about the quality of work you do. It's about the quality of the relationships that we have. It's the state of our mental and well-being. What are we focusing on in our lives? How we control our energy levels, and so much more. So much more than productivity, focus, energy, attention, so much more than just productivity. And I think a lot of the books that we've already reviewed on the channel, like Deep Work and Flow, those are both really great books at the science part of it. But Chris Bailey comes in and says, you know what? Let's look at focus. Let's look at productivity in terms of not just work, but how it can make our lives better. And that's really what this book is all about. Also, mind mapping. You can get the most out of these mind maps by following along. You can find the process of how I mind map, plus all 50 plus of the mind map templates that have been used on this YouTube channel, all at the link down below. Following along with the mind maps is going to help you learn more, remember better, and apply these books to your life. With that, we'll get into our first big idea, which is productivity, question mark. After years of researching the topic, I've found that productivity has become a bit of a loaded term. I certainly have found that as well. What it usually connotes is a condition that feels cold, corporate, and overly focused on efficiency. I prefer a different and friendlier definition. Productivity means accomplishing what we intend to. Accomplishing what we intend to. I think that's a great reframe of productivity. If our plan today is to write 3,000 words, rock a presentation with our leadership team, and catch up on our email, we successfully accomplish all of those things, we were perfectly productive. Likewise, if we intend to have a relaxing day and manage to do absolutely nothing, we're again perfectly productive. Being busy doesn't make us productive. I think busyness and productivity a lot of times get kind of linked together, but they're not really linked. They're not really the same thing. It doesn't matter how busy you are if that busyness doesn't lead to you accomplishing anything of importance. Productivity is not about cramming more into our days, but doing the right thing in each moment. And again, this is a very powerful kind of look into this productivity culture that we've kind of created through the personal development books and those sort of things that are on the channel. But to me, this is productivity redefined, accomplishing what we intend to do, whatever that might look like for us. Smart on two different levels, I think, at least two that I can kind of understand. First, if we think productivity as accomplishing what we intend to do, it first necessitates that we intend to do something, right? We're being intentional with our attention, meaning that we don't approach something haphazardly, but instead we have a defined idea of what we would like to accomplish. I think a lot of us kind of have these things running in our mind where it's like, I just need to do more. I just need to do more. I just need to do more. And that's not the appropriate way to get things done. You need to be intentional about what you plan to do. Second, I think it means that we need to intend to do what we actually do. So if we intend to do something, we have to actually do it. We have to be in congruence with what we intend to do. And this is something very important to understand. When you're saying you're going to do something, you're creating kind of a mini contract with yourself. Are you the type of person who doesn't live up to those contracts? Well, good luck accomplishing anything or trusting yourself to accomplish anything. This is what I see in a lot of my coaching clients and my friends and people around me. If they don't live up to the contracts that they've written for themselves day by day by day by day, even the smallest ones, getting up early, taking a cold shower, all these small little contracts that we're creating, if you're not living up to those, then quite often your goals and your dreams have to be very small because you don't believe in yourself to accomplish them. Conversely, are you the type of person who sets contracts impossibly high or unneededly low? Good luck getting yourself to trust and reinforce those contracts. This also happens as kind of an elastic band effect with these contracts that we're creating with ourselves. We're setting the contract low and low and low and low, and then when we don't hit the low ones, instead we think, okay, I'm going to pull this lever. I'm going to make this contract as difficult as I possibly can, and we think that's the motivating factor. But the motivating factor is stacking up, fulfilling those contracts time after time after time, and then you start to believe that you can accomplish bigger things. Believing in yourself and motivation is a long-term process. It's not setting high goals. It's not creating a vision for yourself. It's not finding your purpose. It's stacking a bunch of small little wins on top of each other so that you eventually believe that you can accomplish the big thing, and you trust yourself enough that when you say you're going to accomplish it, you're going to do your best at actually accomplishing it. Remember, being productive isn't about being busy. Productivity means accomplishing what we intend to, not cramming more into our days, but doing the right thing in each moment, moment to moment. What are we doing? Am I moving towards the right thing? Am I moving towards what I intend to do? doing the right thing, of course, as it relates to our intention inside of each moment. So here are some journaling questions. What do you intend to bring forth today? Let's think of a few. Mine, for health, is before breakfast today, I will take the dog for a 1 hour walk. Mine, for wealth, is today I will produce a mind map on HyperFocus and promote it. Mine, for love, is tonight, for dinner, I'm cooking a romantic meal for my girlfriend and talk about her day. See, these are things that I'm kind of looking at. Where is my attention going to be? What are my intentions going to be for each of these different 4 areas in my life? Today, I'll read a fiction book for 30 minutes before bed and get lost in a story. That's a good hack, by the way, if you're looking to get very happy and creative. Fiction books are just great for that. Moving on, we're going to talk about the namesake of the book, HyperFocus. Chris says when you hyperfocus on a task, you expand one task, project, or other object of attention so that it fills attentional space completely. You enter this mode by managing your attention deliberately and purposefully, by choosing one important object of attention, eliminating distractions that will inevitably arise as you work, and then focus on just one task. Hyperfocus is many things at once. It's deliberate, undistracted, and quick to refocus, and it leads to us becoming completely immersed in our work. It also makes us immensely happy. Recall how energized you were by your work the last time you found yourself in this state. In hyperfocus, you might even feel more relaxed than you usually do when you work. Allowing one task or project to consume your full attention space means this state doesn't make you feel stressed or overwhelmed. Your attentional space doesn't overflow, and your work doesn't feel nearly as chaotic. Since hyperfocus is so much more productive, you can slow down a bit and still accomplish an incredible amount in a short period of time. And I think that's really what we're looking for here, right? If we're looking for work-life balance, hyperfocus, flow, deep work has to be a huge part of that because of the massive amount of returns that you can make in such a short amount of time when you are truly hyper-focused on the task at hand. So what and when was your last super productive day? Let's think about that. Recall that we've given productivity that new definition. Productivity isn't fitting as much as we possibly can. It's accomplishing what we intend to accomplish. So I would invite you, spend some time thinking about that day. What were you doing? And what went right? Chris tells us, probably you were focusing only on one thing. Maybe it was out of necessity, driven by a deadline. This one task filled your attentional space. The most important aspect of hyperfocus is that only one productive or meaningful task consumes your attentional space. This is simply non-negotiable, and here's why. The most critical tasks, projects, and commitments benefit from every bit of extra attention. Now, of course, this is at play in our lives all the time at work, but think about this with your relationships as well. If you're on your phone or you're reading a book or you're doing any other thing other than being in the present moment with that person, what's happening? Number one, you are not being focused on that interaction. But number two, that person is feeling distant from you. And of course, you're not making the type of connection that we all want to make. Turns out, there's a finite number of things that we can focus on. And it's actually a heck of a lot smaller than we think. Producing our best work requires a lot of attention. That's why great people who produce great works often go to great lengths to protect their attention. J.K. Rowling isn't paying attention to her Twitter mentions while she's writing the next Harry Potter. Ray Dalio isn't worrying about how many views he got while creating videos for his book Principles. These people know that the work is the thing that requires and deserves all of their attention. And I think a lot of these kind of lagging indicators, like number of views, number of mentions on Twitter, all of these things, they're lagging indicators for a reason. They only come if you've done good work. And good work only comes if you hyperfocus. Next, we're going to talk about how to. The science suggests we pass through 4 states as we begin to focus. First, we're focused and we're productive. And then, assuming we don't get distracted or interrupted, our minds begin to wander. I'm sure we've all felt this before. Third, we make note of this mind wandering. This can take a while, especially if we don't frequently check what is consuming our attentional space. On average, we noticed about 5 times an hour that our mind has wandered. This is Chris, and he's doing studies. And fourth, we shift our focus back to our original subject matter. So it's kind of this continual stage of starting focused, getting distracted and mind watering, and then kind of going back into the focus and kind of bringing back, bringing back, bringing back. So the 4 stages of hyperfocused, of course, are modeled on this framework. So this is kind of a how-to guide of hyperfocusing. Here are the steps. Number 1, choose a productive or meaningful object of attention. So remember, we want to use an intention for what gets our attention. So this is great. That's step number 1. Step number 2 is to eliminate as many external distractions as you can, external and internal. Focus on that chosen object of attention, and then continually draw back your focus. That one object of attention. Continually draw back, continually draw back. Notice when your mind is wandering and come back to the present, come back to the work at hand. So here's how I've been using these 4 different steps. Step number 1 for me is definitely the most important. I need to choose what I'll put my attention towards. This is usually pulled from a Getting Things Done by David Allen style inbox. I recommend you check out my mind map on Getting Things Done by David Allen. It will revolutionize your life if you haven't already been using the philosophy. I use it every single day to choose what I intend to put my attention on. Next, I turn off all the notifications on my phone. I turn off all the notifications on my computer. I block all non-work related websites as well. After that, I turn my 30-minute Pomodoro timer that's sitting right on my desk beside me, and I start resolving to focus only on one task at a time. Now, this Pomodoro timer is great because it's only 30 minutes long, but it also has a slight ticking sound. So it gives me this little attention. It gives me, okay, I get to draw back to the task at hand. As I hear that clicking, 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 it keeps reminding me to kind of come back every single time to the task at hand. I also find that unless I'm reading, I don't listen to music while I'm reading, but medium BPM, something that's going a little fast, helps me focus when I'm doing mind maps or if I'm doing marketing client work. I really, really like a quick music, not with any lyrics or anything like that, but a quick music is really, really helpful here. So here's how you can use these steps. First, how you choose what to put your attention towards. It's trickier than it sounds, and we'll talk a little bit more on that later. I, again, recommend that you check out the Getting Things Done book by David Allen. Number 2 is, how will you block all your common distractions? We need to get rid of those because it's very, very hard for us to continually use our willpower to not look at Facebook, to not look at Instagram, to not watch a YouTube video. So you need to block those in a hard way, but some way. Third, how long will you work for? Make sure it's easy to track. If you give yourself a completely open-ended time, you will not have the willpower and the ability to continue to focus for an unopened time. You need to pick a specific time. I like 30 minutes. Some people like 40 minutes. Some people like 90 minutes, but you need to find out what works best for you. My recommendation is start a little lower first. Start with 20 minutes and see if you can focus on one task for 20 minutes at a time. Fourth, what's going to help you draw your attention back to the task at hand when it inevitably wanders? We have to have kind of this mindfulness about us as we're going about our work. But again, I really like the ticking. A timer app might be good for you. Something has to give you kind of a reminder that you need to come back to the present moment. You can almost think of it like the spinning top in Inception. It's a very, very good movie if you haven't watched it. But essentially, the spinning top is going to remind us that we need to be in the present moment. And it could be a ticker, it could be an app, it could be whatever you're going to use. But that's very, very important, at least I've found. Our next point is implementation intentions. And Chris said that some students set a vague intention, while others set what Peter Gollwitzer calls an implementation intention. As he explains the term, make a very detailed plan on how you want to achieve what you want to achieve. A very detailed plan on how you want to achieve what you want to achieve. That's implementation intention. What I'm arguing in my research is that goals need plans, ideally plans which include when, where, and which kind of action to move towards the goal. In other words, if a student's vague goal was to find an apartment during Christmas break, his implementation intention could be, I will hunt for apartments on Craigslist and email 3 apartment landlords in the weeks leading up to Christmas. Comparing Goldwitzer to two participants is where things get interesting. A remarkable 62% of students who set a specific implementation intention followed through on their goals. The group that did not set an implementation intention fared a lot more poorly, following through on their original plans a third as often, a paltry 22% of the time. This effect, which subsequent studies validated further, was positively staggering. Setting specific intentions can double or triple your odds of success. And again, this isn't something huge. It's a difference between I'm going to find an apartment during Christmas break and I will hunt for apartments on Craigslist and email 3 apartment landlords in the weeks leading up to Christmas. Very small change. With that in mind, let's quickly turn my 3 vague intentions into implementation intentions. Go to the gym, become schedule, and go to the gym on my lunch break. Quit working when I get home is reframed to put my phone on airplane mode and my work laptop in another room, stay disconnected for the evening. Get to bed on a reasonable time becomes setting a bedtime alarm for 10 p.m. and when it goes off, start winding down. So, how can we double or triple our odds of success? Science says it actually isn't that difficult. Move from those vague targets, get to bed on a reasonable time, and move into something more specific. Move into an implementation intention. The anatomy of an implementation intention looks something like this. Do you have something, get specific. First, you want to get very specific about what you're planning to accomplish. Exactly what do you intend to accomplish? Ask that question first. Where and when do you plan to accomplish it? Bonus points if you can link 2 actions together. So I really like the one that he talked about here, go to the gym. Schedule and go to the gym on my lunch break, something he's already doing, built into his day. He gets to kind of rub that implementation intention right up against something he's already got going on. So now we're going to set some implementation intentions for different areas of our lives. I recommend that you grab the mind map if you haven't already. But health, wealth, love, and happiness. Let's talk about these 4 different categories of our lives. My implementation intention for health is immediately after waking up, take 15 minutes to meditate. Mine for wealth is complete 5 by 30 minutes of deep work or HyperFocus during the workday. Mine for love is to start cooking a romantic dinner for girlfriend directly after returning dog walk after work. I do that every single night. I light a little candle and we get going. Happiness, when you're ready for bed, put on the blue light glasses and read fiction until you fall asleep. Again, fiction I have found is a great hack for happiness. Continuing on, I recommend that you pause the video and go and make some implementation intentions for yourself. Take action on this video. That's really what these mind maps are all about, allowing you to take action on some of the best ideas from all of these amazing books and all these amazing authors. Continuing on, our next point is about practice. And he says here, there is one practice that has been proven study after study to increase working memory capacity, meditation. Increase working memory capacity. What does that mean? Your ability to recall things from books, from work, from all sorts of different resources. Kind of working memory capacity is probably one of the things that is the most important if you're trying to remember things from these mind maps or from books, that sort of thing. Increasing that working memory, so important. Like HyperFocus, meditation involves continually returning your focus to a single object of attention, usually your breath, as soon as you notice your mind has wandered from it. Each time you return your wandering mind to the details of your breath, you heighten your executive functioning and how much control you have over your attention. So really meditation, if you think about it, is kind of the same practice as hyperfocusing. It's kind of the same practice as really getting into that deep work flow state. That's what we're trying to do. For me, meditation has just changed my life. It's unbelievable. I was against it for so many years for no reason. And now that I'm part of meditation, I'm definitely proselytizing. It's one of the things that have changed my life more than anything else. Meditation is that important to me. I know it sounds cliche, and I know I am proselytizing. I know so many people tell you to meditate, and if you haven't started already, there's probably a reason why. But most of the time, I think people think that they don't have time to meditate. Research shows that it's actually not true. When you meditate for 15 minutes during the day, you fall asleep on average 15 minutes quicker. So meditation is actually, at worst, zero time. You get the time back immediately. Not only that, but Chris shows here that meditation can drastically increase your hyperfocus ability, meaning, in fact, we have a much higher chance of being productive with a meditation practice. Meaning we could save hours and hours and potentially days and months over our entire working career getting things done. So, how can you start? If you're not into meditation, what's a good way to get into it? This is what I recommend. You can do so many different things, but this is one way to do it. Do you have a warm drink in the morning? Coffee or tea? Most of us do. Just try to drink that each morning completely undistracted. Taste the drink on your tongue and feel the warmth in your body. It's a great place to start, I think, for two different reasons. First, it's connecting the meditation to something that you're doing already, kind of like going to the gym at lunch. You probably very rarely miss this warm drink in the morning. Second, it allows you to learn versus feel like you're doing it wrong. So, what does that mean? A lot of times with meditation, people will have a specific practice that they think they have to follow because it's the salvation. I'm not so sold on that. I think the quiet time and the bringing the attention back to the thing at hand is really most of what you need. And I don't think there's really that many ways to get it wrong. But sometimes when we get into a meditation practice and we can't seem to focus and we can't do this or we can't do that, we can't do what the guru is kind of asking us to do, we can sometimes feel less than. We can sometimes feel like it's not worth it if we can't get it perfect. But drinking coffee is pretty simple. Drinking tea is pretty simple. Just bring that attention back to the coffee. Be quiet. It's a very good place to go because there's no way to do it wrong. If your attention wanders, hey, that's the point. The point was to find your attention wandering. And if you've done that, that's great. I think really just getting started with meditation, so important. You owe it to yourself to get going. Now, our final point here is actually kind of the opposite of hyperfocus. We're going to talk about ScatterFocus. Now, what is ScatterFocus? Well, here's how the quote goes. Hyperfocus can help you get an extraordinary amount done in a relatively short period of time. ScatterFocus lets you connect ideas, which helps you unearth hidden insights, become more creative, plan for the future, and rest. Together, they will enable you to work and live with purpose. Your attention is the most powerful tool at your disposal to live and work with greater productivity, creativity, and purpose. Managing it will enable you to spend more time and energy on your most purposeful tasks and to work more often with intention, focus for longer periods, and stumble into fewer unwanted daydreams. I hope you spend it wisely. Attention is incredibly important, and ScatterFocus is a part of it. The final point of the book, and I'm glad that it was added. Life isn't all about getting things done. We need to make time and space for connecting the dots that seem unconnected. This is something that I love doing. I feel mind mapping is a great tool to do this, but going out on a walk is really when I get most of my scatter focus done. I let my mind wander around a particular point in my life. Maybe it's business, relationships, health, or happiness. I think about the things that I learned the day before or that day if it's a later in the afternoon walk. But instead of having an intention, I try to simply allow what comes up to come up. If there's an idea for a business, if there's an idea for a coaching call, any of those things, I try and allow it to come up. After spending time in ScatterFocus, I tend to have an idea for a project or something that I'm working on, and it's pretty reliable. Every time I go on a walk, I have some small change that I can make in either my business or in my personal life. And if I make that small change, it makes my life a little bit better. So, do you want a high quality life? Again, pay attention to your attention. And maybe better said, put intentions on your attention. Know what model to use and what mode to be in. Thanks so much for being with me here today. If you've made it all the way till the end of the video, I want to offer you something that I'm not offering to everyone. I want to give you a free, customized one-on-one strategy session. This strategy session, I will show you my Trello system that I use to keep myself on track, to set goals, to identify my purpose, to double down on HyperFocus. I'll completely customize the board for you over a 30-minute long period. We'll have all your nice colors and we'll set some real intentions for this board. It's all completely free, no obligation. There's a link down in the description down below. Click on that link. We'll create that custom Trello board for you. It would be great to meet you. Thanks.